Hi, I'm Stu Kagan, and welcome to Born Scrappy, the podcast for scrap metal exporters and traders. Join me in conversation with some of the most experienced traders and operators that have helped shape this incredible industry. In today's episode, I chat to Natalia Zholud. Natalia is in charge of global trading at the TRM Group, a non-ferrous trading company which has had some incredible growth over the past few years. Natalia also represents Eastern Europe on the Non-Ferrous Board of the BAR. In the episode, we discuss what to do when China stops receiving material from the country you're buying from, why you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help, metal marketplaces in the future, independent mediation, and so much more. So let's get on with it and hear from Natalia. But first, intro. Hi, Natalia. Welcome to Born Scrappy. How are you?
Hi, Stu. I'm very good. Thank you. How are you? Good evening for you.
Yes, good evening. And more importantly, happy birthday. And just in case anybody isn't sure, it's not my birthday. It's not Born Scrappy's birthday. It's Natalia's birthday right now, 8 a.m. where she is, just woken up and, celebrating. Is it your 21st today?
Well, not unfortunately 21st already, but a bit more than that.
Right. And are we first, or am I first to wish you today? Seeing it's 8 a.m.?
Not the first one to wish, but probably the first one I, talk to, not texting.
Okay, great. Well, fantastic. And thank you for coming on your birthday. Like, it's pretty cool. And we only set this up just the other day. We were chatting about it. So really excited to have you here.
Yeah, it's all my pleasure, too.
Thanks. Okay, Natalia, tell us a little bit about you. I know you work at the TRM Group, and I've got to meet Nikolai and got to become friends with Nikolai at the BAR. Also met Artem. We spent a lot of time together at the BAR. It was great spending time with him. So I know the guys from the TRM Group, but I don't really know much about your background. Tell us a little bit about your background and what the TRM Group does.
So what TRM does is basically we're a trader for mostly non-ferrous metals. So basically a third-party sourcing, buying elsewhere, selling elsewhere. I myself joined TRM 11 years ago. So Stu, this week is also my 11-year anniversary at TRM and in this business, because this was my first job I got out of college. I actually got into the industry very much by chance. So the way the educational system works in my country is if you have a scholarship from the government, you're supposed to have like a fixed workplace for 2 years after you graduate. So I basically searched for a job that would pay the bills and do the job, which turned out to be the metal industry. So I joined in 11 years ago and never left.
And you're not going anywhere. It's how it goes, right?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think, you've mentioned it a couple of times in your interviews, if you survive the first year, you're probably going to stick with the industry for good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You also are on the Non-Ferrous Board of the BAR. How did that come about, and how do you find that?
I think I joined the board 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember exactly now. It was the Singapore convention. So I think this was 2019. Well, and I'm representing the Eastern European countries. So yeah, it's been great. It's really, it's one thing attending the conferences, watching the panel discussions, what the boards do, what kind of input they bring into the industry and so on. And it's fantastic to be one of them, one of this big group. Our board is the biggest one within the BIR. So we're 18 people, I think, if I'm not mistaken right now. And it's fantastic professionals. It's a pleasure and an honor to be one of them.
I've had a few on, and I think I've got a few coming in the next few months as well. I'm very excited to get a lot more involved in Born Scrappy and learn from everybody that partakes in the board or in the BAR. I guess it's a lot about giving back as well. You guys sit on the association board, you help make certain decisions for everybody. And it's really important what you guys do. So we thank you as well for spending your time.
Thank you.
So, Natalia, you've seen a few of these episodes, I'm guessing, so you know kind of how they go. So let's talk about some stories. Let's get some juicy stories from you, Natalia. Where have you struggled with a trade in the past that you can think of? Something that really was tough to deal with, and how you got through it, and what lessons you learned.
I can give you one example that would be like close to home for you, Stu, since you told me at Abu Dhabi that you're originally from Lithuania. So your
Yeah,
grandfather, right? If I
yeah,
remember it correctly.
yep, that's
So you
right.
might remember then that in 2021 there was a conflict with China and Lithuania over Taiwan, which
Mm,
went on for I think maybe 6-7 months, like the first stages of it. And what happened is that China has forbidden any cargo out of Lithuania. So either shipped from Lithuania or sold by a Lithuanian company, doesn't matter. So any mention of Lithuania to enter its territory. And it happened like super fast, like in 1 or 2 days, I think. And at the time, we were doing most of our trading work with Lithuanian office. So TRM has an office in Lithuania. So I remember I had 200 something, 212 containers, if I remember correctly, on the water, shipped from Lithuania to China. And then, in the blink of one day, they tell you like this cargo cannot enter China. So this was new. So this was something I've never faced
mm,
before that in my career. So this was quite a challenge. And it's one thing to find a solution for the cargo that's on the water. While it's shipping, you have some time for a maneuver. So you have some time to think about it. What are our options? What we can do, and so on. But with the cargo that was already in China, so this was a
mm.
different story. So it's already on the ground, but you can't custom clear it and you can't return it. So Chinese customs didn't allow to ship anything back. So it was just sitting in the port, with my demurrage bill, detention bill growing enormously by the day, and nobody really knew what to do with it. So I made a lot of calls to, the more experienced traders in the industry to ask for advice, like, have you ever seen anything like this before? Like, what can we possibly do about it? But the tricky fact was there was nothing really we could do. So with the containers of the water, we found a solution. We diverted some of them. We stopped some of them until there was a clarity in the situation. But with metal on the ground, we just basically had to sit and wait on what the decision of the country will be. So that was it.
And
Sometimes
just to
the best decision is no decision.
just sit and wait. Not something I'd
Yeah.
necessarily recommend, but sometimes when you get stuck and you find everybody that you can, and they've said to you, "There's not many answers here," you just got to wait it out. But let's just clarify: we're talking about over 200 containers of non-ferrous, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
for everybody that's listening, we're not talking about small money. And had TRM bought this product already? So they bought the material,
Yeah, it was
or
all
what were the
bought, it was
payment
all
terms?
paid for. Yeah, it was all bought, it
Wow.
was all paid for. So
So with the supplier from Lithuania, um, no comeback there. Obviously, you couldn't go to them and say there's an issue, or how did you handle it with them?
well, technically, the issue was in the customs clearance, which is technically the part of the job that the buyer handles in China.
Mm,
But, it's not a kind of situation where you can call your buyer and say, hey, buddy, this is like your side of the deal. Because
yeah.
they have no solution to it either. So they can't really
Mm.
do anything about it. And they call you for help. Like, I have no idea how to deal with the situation. So let's sit down at the phone, sit down at the table, and think about what we can do.
And
So we
was there money lost at the end?
There was some money lost in the end, so some for storage, some for demurrage costs, and so on. But eventually, all the buyers got their material. So it took a couple of
Mm,
months. I'm sure our logistics team remembers this very well. So this was an enormous amount of work that they do, and they did a fantastic job on getting all the material to their final destination. So everything was settled out. Took a couple months, I think maybe 7-8 months in total to kind of fix everything. But
mm.
yeah, it was solved eventually.
Would you say, because you touched on that you spoke to the buyers and the buyers were saying it's out of their control, they'll do everything they can, but there wasn't much they could do. Would you say you had good partners there at the time?
Well, I think, Stu, every time you have a difficult situation like this, it's a perfect learning opportunity about your counterparty. So somebody performed better, somebody performed worse. So somebody said, this is your country's problem, you go and handle it. Somebody said, we'll do everything we can. If we need your help, we'll let you know. And somebody said, let's sit down to the table and find a solution together. So depends on the person. And it's also, a good chance to see who you're working with and make conclusions for the future.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sometimes you get put in those positions just to know somebody a little bit better so that in the
Exactly.
future, when there's something else going on, you know who you should party with. I heard a brilliant quote the other day, and I might mess it up a little bit, but it was something along the lines of a good deal with a bad party will be a bad deal, but a bad deal with a good party will always find a way to be a good deal. And I thought that's really clever. I think I made a post about it the other day, just because what it tells me is that even if you have a bad deal, like for example, the deal you did, right? It's not necessarily a bad deal, but it's gone bad. But by having good partners, you have the ability to work through it. And even if you have a good deal, and when you have bad partners, often it just becomes a bad deal. So partners are just so important, counterparties.
Totally agree. And a very smart person in this industry once told me that our value as professionals, not just in this job, but in life in general, is in how we solve problems, like difficult situations. Like everybody can do it if it all goes smooth, easy, and predictable. Anybody can do it. Like I can bring in my mother and tell her like this is what you do to sell a load of honey, and she'll probably do it. But it's the situations like this when you kind of show your value and you see the value in the people you're working with.
So, in your time at TRM, have you had to make any really tough decisions? You haven't moved around between different companies. Often people feel that, Eleanor, for example, the other day, going out on her own as an entrepreneur was a tough decision for her. Have you had any tough decisions you've had to deal with?
Well, I think it kind of grows from what we have just discussed previously. So sometimes you deal with a good person or a good company, but you see that at some point your business values don't match, and that in difficult situations the person is not going to be there for you. So it's one thing to do business when it's all smooth sailing, but you know that in times when problems come, the person won't be there for you. So what I like to do is I try to sort of balance, the amount of business I do with different companies based on like my feeling, whether they will or not be there for me for a tough situation. And I think everybody does that, whether I will be there for them if they have some problems. And sometimes it's kind of hard to, limit the business or stop the business with a certain company because you know that it's all good now, but tomorrow, if something happens, it will not be. And I'm often asked by younger traders within our company, like, why don't we do like this much business with this company? Like, it's all going great. Like, the margins are great, the material is nice. Like, work in general is perfect, but sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. So we try to limit. Like, let's say, the amount of exposure to the company. So sometimes it's a hard decision, I think.
I met with a freight forwarder the other day, a really large one in the US, and they were saying that exact same thing, that it's easy when it's going well, but it's knowing who you should be dealing with when things go badly, right? So up front, if you do your right due diligence and you check on the counterparty and you know your customer either side, and then make that decision. And it is a hard decision. He was telling me that he turns away a lot of business, and it's purely because he does his due diligence. And if there's some negative referrals or references, or if there's a financial report that he's able to pull that has a few issues, he straight away doesn't do business with it. And it's hard because you look at it, and exactly like the young traders say to you, right? They say to you, there's profit here.
I mean, it
Right?
looks fine. Like, why not?
Absolutely. We have targets, right? We've got targets. The company wants to make certain profits and revenue and whatever they want to hit, do the volumes, and it's sitting right in front of you. But I think it's the learning through the experience when it actually happens, you very quickly learn what to look out for in the future. And when you're starting new and you haven't experienced it, it's similar to some of the people have mentioned before the 2008 crash. Every trader thought it was the easiest thing in the world because the
Yeah,
markets always went up until 2008 hit. And it was some of the best lessons anybody could have learned.
totally.
Yeah. So you spoke earlier. We know that you sit on the board, the Non-Ferrous Board. You mentioned that you've made some phone calls during tricky times to other traders or other people in the industry. Let's talk about collaboration. I love it. So let's talk about where have you reached out to other parties in the industry, which people might maybe, let's say, from previous generations, not have done that before.
I actually do that super often, Stu. Like if I come to a point where there's a metal grade I'm not very familiar with, or a market I'm not exactly feeling comfortable or experienced in, I always pick up the phone. So this comes with one of the perks of being on the non-ferrous board of the BIR. So you have 18 people from all of the corners of the world, and pretty much anywhere you have a problem, you have somebody to talk to. And I'm really proud to have a network where I can call people and ask for advice on the micro level, on the macro level, doesn't matter. And I know especially young traders, they do struggle with it. I did struggle with it as well when I was younger, because you kind of think that if I ask for help or I ask for advice, people are going to think that I'm a rookie, that I'm not professional, that I don't know something. And it kind of came with experience that it's not the story. People are actually happy to help most of the time. Of course, everybody's busy running their own businesses. Everybody's busy with their daily operations. So don't be overusing other people's kindness, but just asking for advice. I've never been turned down on somebody asking for help
Mm.
or for advice in a situation. So I think we should do that more. And I always encourage the rest of the traders in my company to do that. Like, come to me, ask me if I can help you. I'm happy to do that. If I can't, most likely I know who to refer you to, who will be able to help. So I think it's really important, and you shouldn't be scared to do that.
Yeah, and I think interestingly enough, I think even the most experienced traders still reach out for help because the industry we're in isn't black and white. It's not as simple as the answer is X, because it might just be, how do you feel, like you said earlier, how do you feel about a certain market? Now, that's a feeling. That's people taking certain information and assuming or speculating, what might happen in the future. Nobody has a crystal ball. So often you will find the most experienced traders reaching out to other traders, saying asking them for their thoughts. So if you are a junior or new to trading, don't think that the most experienced guys aren't doing the same thing that you want to do, right? And it's I tell you what is impressive to me is when the questions are good. So when a trader phones and asks, I'd love some advice on such and such, and I go, that's a really good question, and often I'll be stumped too. And then it's like, well, let me reach out to a few people as well because that's an interesting topic. Like I hadn't thought about that. I wonder what's going to happen there, or I wonder what happens if that happens. Like that's great, and often you'll get a lot of respect as well just by the questions that you ask. So I agree with you. Don't shy away from those questions. Use them as an opportunity to reach out and grow your network.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And also, it's important not to think that you're the smartest person in the room. So 100%, any trouble that you come across, most likely there is somebody who has already done that, so who has already overcome that. So why learn from your own mistakes if you can reach out to a person who has experience dealing with it?
What I think Brett Eckhart in America will always say that his objective is to not be the smartest person in the room, right? He wants to be surrounded by smart people. What a waste it is to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah,
I'm like, what do you learn? Right? You want to be surrounded
exactly.
by smarter people and grow that network full of people that have so much experience and are so smart that they're just going to be, and then be a sponge, right? And then just get as much as you possibly can and learn and listen from them, right? So yeah, I agree. Yeah,
And
don't
Stu, one more
you don't have
thing
to
that
do.
I like to do, and I think we kind of do it less as an industry lately, is bring in a mediator for tough cases. So sometimes when I'm negotiating a claim, like I think I try to be fair, I try to do the right thing by my supplier or by my buyer all the time. But sometimes we have a different understanding of what's fair, and it's okay. Like we're all different people. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different conditions on what we enter the business in. So sometimes instead of being angry with each other, it makes sense to bring in somebody we both trust, somebody with more experience, somebody both of us are comfortable, to look at the case and kind of see like, hey guys, I think this is this and that. And okay, we take it for granted. I mean, calling an SGS is one thing, but when you can sit down with a professional, experienced person who can just say like, my feeling about the situation is this and that, and I would do it this way. And I think it's super helpful.
I haven't heard that before, so I love that. Now I know call in, all the third party people who are theoretical, and will send you a document on an analysis or review with pictures, whatever it might be, but it's not always accurate. And I think what you're touching on, there are different personalities. So you can send me a picture as a supplier of yours, and I'm going, well, you're not taking all the pictures from the parcel. You've taken one piece of material and you've taken 10 photos of different angles of that same piece of material, right?
Yeah.
So you're always going to have that discussion. And you're quite right. Different personalities, we come from different backgrounds. Certain people negotiate or argue, depending on what you want to call it, in a different way, right? I know for a fact South Africans are much more abrupt. They're not being rude. They're just abrupt. They're saying their point. They're not beating around the bush. Whereas Kiwis, so people from New Zealand, won't be as abrupt, and probably will be seen to be more polite. So
Yeah,
it's just kind of your background, and that's very interesting. So using a mediator. So and you've done that quite a few times.
yeah, a couple of times, and I was asked to be a mediator on a couple of cases, even within our company. Like sometimes we had a case maybe a year ago when one of the traders was negotiating a claim for a load of birchcliff, if I remember correctly. And they said like, hey, I don't really know, they didn't find exactly anyone that both would be comfortable with. But the guy said like, hey, I see you have Natalia, met her a couple times at the conference. Like, can we just bring one more person into this thing? And it's great. I loved it that, they did ask for assistance.
And how do these people, other than yourself who's already in the company, how does what sort of response do you get? Because anybody out there who's thinking, oh, that could really help me right now. However, the person I'm thinking of probably doesn't have the time. How have they responded when you've reached out? Has anybody actually blatantly said, look, I don't have time for this, Natalia. I'm not being your mediator? Or has everybody been positive with it?
Not exactly, I don't have time, but sometimes people said like, hey, I think I don't have maybe enough experience with this particular grade of material. So I'd suggest you reach out to this person. Not like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to spend my time on dealing with your problems. Nothing like that. No. So the response is usually very positive. And, it's coming to one of the collaboration topics that you touched on before. People are happy to help. People are happy to share experience.
I really like the mediator idea. Yeah, I might mention it a few times to some other people who a lot of the time we speak about that being probably the biggest issue in the trading that we do. We're not selling widgets. It's not homogenized. It's going to be all different sort of quality inside. It's not black or white. So happens all the time. I like the idea of mediator. I'm going to give it some more thought and work out how to do something about that. But yeah, very, very cool. Natalia, tell me about, I know it's only 11 years. I think it's over 11. Is it 11 years this week with TRM? Did you say?
Yeah, Wednesday.
So Wednesday, it's your 11th year celebration with TRM. Has there been any highlight that you can think of in the 11 years that you've been at TRM?
At TRM, not exactly, because once you grow within one company, it's all kind of a steady process. And TRM was a very small company when I joined them. So when I joined them in 2012, we were 5 people in the company. Right now we're 200 something, I guess.
Wow.
But one of the highlights of my career, I'd say, was joining the BIR board. So this was a very, first of all, it's recognition of who you are as a professional. And second of all, it's been a great fast track to my career. So once you're on the board, it's way easier to reach out to some of the companies who were like reluctant to talk to you or to do business with you because you're a girl from a company not many people knew at the time. We were working from Belarus office at the time, so it's a country that nobody really knows and doesn't really feel comfortable with. So this was a great fast track to my career. And I actually volunteered to join the board. So I don't know if you know, the way it usually works is that somebody who is already on the board kind of brings in an idea like, you know, this person is doing a great job in this market. Let's bring him and have him join the board. I volunteered. So we were at an MRIA conference in Kochi, I think 2017, maybe 2018. And there were some people from the BIR and we started talking like who you are, where you're from, what kind of business are you doing? And I said like, yeah, if you want somebody to represent Eastern Europe, like to help you get the memberships up, cover the markets, do the reports on the markets and so on, I'm happy to do it if you'll have me. And that's basically what started my BIR career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your career highlight during the BIR, a lot of people look at it and I guess don't necessarily put their hands up, right? A lot of people look at it and they might be better, even better known than you were at the time, but either wait for the invite or don't necessarily feel that they'll be wanted in that association or in that position. So once again, it's having the confidence to go up, and whether it's speaking to people or speaking to the association. We're a really small industry, like we really are in the context of in the global context of things, and everybody knows everybody. So reach out, and if you are wanting to be, you know, in an association, whatever it might be, like have the guts to make that call or have that conversation. I look at the BIR the other day, and just the ability to walk up to random strangers that you might have seen on LinkedIn or wherever else, right? And you just go up to them and you can chat to them because, you know, there's 1,200 people or whatever it is there. And we all know the same people and we do the same things on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, I like the idea that you put your hand up. I like it that volunteer for what's become the highlight of your career. You volunteered for it, right? You had the guts to go and ask somebody if they wanted you on it, and look at you now. So that's really awesome. You said you got over 200 people in TRM now. That's a really large trading company. What sort of volumes are you guys doing now?
So the 200 people are not just the trading. We have an internal, we have a production for brass ingots, but this is for local market. So local market production, local market sales, local market scrap sourcing. So just the trading side of the business, I think, is maybe. So I have 8 people here with me in Poland. We've got 6 people in Lithuania, and we've got 3 people in Dubai. So that's the trading side of it.
And volumes?
So last month we did, I think, 8,400, 8,500, something like that.
Yeah, it's excellent. You're a lot better known now than you were when you started 11 years ago. That's for sure.
Definitely.
With those volumes,
but you know, we didn't really jump start into scrap trading. So, you know, your podcast is called Born Scrappy. So that's not really been the story for me. So when I joined the company, we were doing semi-finished products only. So what I did is that I was trading semi-finished copper products from a Polish producer. Then gradually we usually people start from scrap and move into, you know, production. We did vice versa. So we started with semi-finished and then got back to the scrap business.
Yeah. So you're buying a lot of volume. Tell me how exporters can optimize their trading strategy. So these are the guys that you're buying from, right? The processors out there that you're then selling it on into the different markets. What can they do to be better and to get better prices, or to get into better markets, or to be able to sell to yourselves, whatever it might be?
So first of all, I don't think that getting the best price out there is the best strategy. So, we've talked about this at the beginning of our conversation. So sometimes, especially in turbulent times like the past 2 years have been, it's more important to work with a reliable partner, not necessarily get the best price out there. But how to, stick for life, let's say, with the company or with an exporter is pick up the phone and be present for them. So, we all have families, we all have our lives outside of work, and not everybody necessarily wants to pick up the phone in the evenings or weekends, and when you have your own thing to do and so on. But if you're always there for your counterparty, if there's something they're struggling with, something they don't know what to do, or they want to check whether the payment's coming in tomorrow, even the small things like that, it's something that brings them comfort, knowing that you will be there when you need them. So I think this is one of the highlights, and what has helped me to build those strong relationships.
So that's on your side, but what can your suppliers do better? So if we have scrap dealers listening to this,
Yeah,
and they're wanting to be a preferred supplier of Natalia, right? They want to be, you said earlier, there's certain people you won't do business with. How does somebody become a preferred supplier at TRM, as an example?
So first of all, stick to your word. So sometimes, market is unpredictable. Sometimes people try to walk away from contracts, not often, but we've all been there on that part of the road. So that's basically some same thing, but on the other side of the deal. So be there for your counterparty, stand by your word, and so on. And also be prepared to do the homework. I know many people on your podcast have spoken about this, that it's important to know who you're selling to. Make sure to sell the right product to the right consumer. So, don't call copper cathode producer and offer them copper cathodes. That's a waste of time. So do your homework and do the study on who you're dealing with.
A lot of people I interview tell me that price isn't so important. But I think it's also because I'm interviewing a lot of the traders. Now, I'm going to speak from the other side, and I hope a lot of the scrap suppliers will back me up here. Price is important. It might not be as important as having a relationship or knowing who you're selling to. However, when we're out there competing, and we're competing with the likes of the large multinationals that are selling, to the same people you're selling to, if not getting a better price because of the volume that they're doing, price is really important. So I think when some suppliers hear Born Scrappy and they hear the traders go, well, price isn't that important, they think, oh, well, we've heard this all before. This is the traders' talk of, trust me, I'll pay you on time and you'll never have a problem, so don't worry about the price.
Well, Stu, what I do with my suppliers, especially when you come visit and see people in person, is I ask, tell me how I can help. So tell me what is something that you struggle with, whether it's, a grade of metal you don't know where to move, or it's hedging currency or LME, or you need to be selling small volumes to keep the money coming into the yard. So anything. And tell me if I can be helpful with that. So maybe I may not be able to give you the best price in the world, but I can give you, let's say, a hedging opportunity, which you're not able to do yourself. And, it's just taking a huge weight off your shoulders and letting you sleep at night better. So maybe it's just offering a service, or offering maybe just advice. I don't necessarily buy this grade of metal, but I know this person out there who will be happy to buy, and you can reach out to them and sell it to them.
Look, don't get me wrong. Traders are extremely important, and it's for exactly what you just said. So it's, as a processor, you're dealing with your operations all day. And yes, of course, the larger ones will have their own trading team as well that'll be selling, but they can't get to the same places you can get to. and other traders can get to for many reasons. One, they're not doing it full time and traveling the world and making sure that that's their focus. And the other thing is they don't necessarily have the volumes. They might not have the banking relationships, etc., etc. So there's a huge value that traders bring, but just know that we think pricing is also important. That's all I was saying. Yeah. So tell me, when we are looking for a new buyer, so you've come to visit us and we've gone, oh, and you found some commodities that I've struggled to sell. What should we be, as the middle processors, what should we be looking out for when we're dealing with new buyers?
Well, I think we've touched this, a couple minutes ago. So when you look for a new buyer, A, look for a right counterparty. B, offer to at least a couple markets. So it's easy to reach to the closest markets, maybe to a market you understand better. If you're sitting in Europe, it's easy to sell in Europe. Dealing with Asia seems like, a whole other world out there. So try to check at least a couple markets. So sometimes, your best sale is not in the place you might expect it to be. So, for example, I've learned this a couple years ago when I was selling some of the birchcliff that we sold to Thailand, I guess. And when you look at birchcliff, like who's your, I don't know, usual go-to, like Korea and Germany, and then all of a sudden you just okay, I'll give it 3 or 4 more shots before I make the decision, and you might find something that you would be surprised to find.
So when we are meeting with new traders, I know I touched on it earlier, but some of the things people want to know is their ability to pay. So every trader says we have a massive financial position, we're able to pay, right? So we're very, very strong financially. How do they do checks? Do we do a trial? Is it just one box and see how quickly the payment comes? Have you ever experienced anybody asking for some financial reports or anything like that on your company?
Financial reports all the time, like especially in Europe, where you have the credit rating companies, and you can refer to banks for this kind of information. So financial reports often. What is fair enough to say is that sometimes the financial report that you get does not represent how quickly you will get your money back. So it might look good on paper, but it's it will be paid eventually, but it doesn't mean that it will be paid as fast as you would like it to. And this is, again, something you have to just ask around. So this looks good on paper, but is it really as good as it looks like when it comes to selling material to them?
So just because they have money doesn't mean they'll pay you on time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly right. 100%. I've had that.
And, we also try to always have let's say a payment structure which kind of secures you as a supplier. So if I sell material, I try to negotiate a payment term that would be acceptable, of course, for my buyer, but also some that will give a sort of security to me as a supplier in case something goes
Absolutely.
well.
So Natalia, how have you seen the industry change over the last couple days under 11 years?
Well, I think that the industry, as we understand it, too, when you say industry, I haven't been so long part of, so maybe 5-6 years. So that's not too much of experience you might compare to the other super experienced people that you have here on Born Scrappy before. But definitely regulations are becoming a more and more time-consuming part of our lives. And I think it will come more to that. So more and more we will be, navigating with the different regulations as businesses. Also, how much technology becomes, part of our daily life. So first of, starting with the equipment, like new equipment coming up, AI sorting, and so on. But even from, we discussed this with you in Abu Dhabi, that the trading as we know it today, where you sell in WhatsApp, it's going to be gone in 10 years. And there are a lot of marketplaces coming up in the recent years, especially after COVID. So, and I think so this will be something that we will be living in a couple of years. So some sort of marketplace, maybe something that looks like LME in a way for secondary materials. So we'll see which one exactly this will be, but definitely some sort of automatized platforms that we'll be working with.
So I don't even need to ask questions because you've obviously watched enough Born Scrappy and you knew the next question was, what is the industry going to look like over the next 10 years? But let's then touch on marketplaces, right? Have you actually used any of these marketplaces?
We actually have a guy in our company who reviews all of the marketplaces out there. So decides which one works for us, which one doesn't. Because I think it's not fair to the amount of work that people put into a marketplace if you just open a demo and they say like, I don't really like that, so I'll try another one. So you have to kind of work in it, put the time to understand it, to understand if it fits your process, if it doesn't. So we did check quite a lot. So the recent one I was reviewing was TradeCloud. But, we try to look at all of them because the specifics of our business is we run it from many locations. So the trading offices, we are in 3 different locations. So for us, it's good to have some sort of marketplace that brings the people from different locations together to do the same thing. So yeah.
Who are you watching in the industry?
Well, actually, a lot of the guys that you have interviewed, Stu, I'm a big fan of Murat. So he does a fantastic job in promoting how important our industry is. They do a lot of putting up the information about how important open trading is, kind of lifting the restrictions or not imposing new restrictions and so on. And EMR in general does a great job in this. I do watch Susie very closely, Susie Burridge. So she was very helpful to me when I just joined the Non-Ferrous Board, and it's fascinating to watch like her career, her path, and the work that she does. And I'd probably say John Sacco with Repurposed series. So he does a fantastic job as well because for me, honestly, even some of my best friends don't really know what I'm doing. So, they see like pictures from a conference or pictures from a scrapyard when, you're checking some material, but it's hard to explain to people sometimes like what the industry is. Or even to students, like, you have interns coming into the company and you try to, and I'm so passionate about my job. I try to explain that story, like we do this and we do that. And it's such a diverse job and you have so many, things that are part of your daily life. And sometimes it's hard to explain it to a person that's outside of the industry. And I think Repurpose does a great job in that. So you can see what the industry is, how it looks like, what is it that we do.
Literally this morning, and it's my evening here at the moment, but this morning, my wife and I onboarded another guy into a new venture that we're creating. And we recommended like go and watch season 1, Repurposed, come back with any questions. I'm sure you'll have heaps, and I'm sure they'll answer them in season 2 as well. So yeah, it's incredible what John has done. I have huge amount of time for John. I think he's incredible for our industry. Massive advocate for our industry, and we should all be really taking a page out of his book, and as much as possible trying to do similar things, obviously on a smaller scale. But we all are on social media, we're all on LinkedIn, we all have a phone with a camera on it. We can be taking photos very easily of our yard and talking about it. So I expect to see some coming from you as well, Natalia.
Okay, we'll do so.
There we go. So finishing off, obviously we want to get to know you a bit better. So when we see you at the next conferences, people will know what to talk to you about. So are you a TV watcher? A lot of people aren't. Do you watch TV? Do you have a favorite TV show or movie?
I do, actually. My favorite movie would be My Blueberry Nights. So it's not a very popular one. I don't think many people have seen it, but it's like a warm blanket you can wrap into. Like, I love it. I've watched it like dozens of times. TV series. So I wouldn't call it favorite, but the recent one that I've seen is Scenes from a Marriage on HBO. So it's a remake of original Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage, but done by Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac, and it's brilliant. It's like, well, if you haven't seen it, I just highly recommend it. Like, it's fantastic.
Cool. All right, I'll write that one down. What is it? Comedy? Is it drama?
I think it's more of a drama. Yeah,
Okay, I'll write it down for my wife then.
I'm sure
Tell
she'll love it
me,
as well.
yeah. Favorite place to visit?
Um, Probably Georgia. Georgia, the country, not the state.
Okay.
I've been there on vacation 5 or 6 times, I think, and I'm always happy to revisit. So it's a fantastic place to travel. The mountains are great, the sea is great, food is amazing, wine is amazing, and people are fantastic. So if you haven't traveled there yourself, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best places on the earth to be with for me.
Wow. Is it a like a popular tourist destination?
It's not actually. It was in our part of the world for some time. Like, if you live in here, you either travel inside of Europe or a destination like Turkey and Egypt. And at some point,
Mm,
people were like, Turkey and Egypt is kind of an easy way out. So let's see Georgia. It's easy for me because they speak Russian, so it's
right.
very easy to sort of get along if you don't speak the language. So.
Got you. Okay, I'll put on the list. Favorite book?
Favorite book, let's say Aldous Huxley, The Island.
Cool. Haven't heard of it though. Any
Yeah,
good? Obviously.
it is good. So you might have heard Huxley. He does like the utopian. So one of his most famous books is Utopian. Uh, I'll try to translate it from Russian. Like Brave New World, Great
Yeah.
New World, something like that. So this is like something that's the most popular thing that he wrote, but the island is like a philosophical more
Mm,
mostly thing. I love it.
cool. And finishing off, favorite quote.
uh, Again, I wouldn't say favorite, but just something that I came across lately and kind of stuck in my mind, is that the magic that you are looking for is in the work that you're avoiding.
The work you're avoiding. Love that. Natalia, thank you so much for being with us on your birthday, first thing in the morning. So thank you. And it's been awesome. It's been a great, great episode.
Thank you, Stu. It's a fantastic start to my days. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, Natalia. Have an awesome day. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye bye.